Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And the UFC Fight Night, Taira taking on Albazi is no more. We have Taira taking on Park, but it doesn't matter anyway, because as always, the Ground and Pound podcast is going to be here to break down the entire card, starting off in the early prelims, heading to the main event. And as always, we got a man to introduce, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And for all you Hulkamaniacs out there, brother, we're going to kick things off in the early prelim opener of Ketlen Souza taking on Piera Rodriguez. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Piera Rodriguez. All right. Souza's she's very skilled. Like she's got very good jiu-jitsu. Her striking, although like a little looping and a little wild sometimes, she has no choice but to throw hooks because she's short. She's got to get inside. But they come out quick and they come out hard. And she's very dangerous when she gets a little upset, as I've seen in that fight against Jasmine Hierarchy. She was doing okay, but she was actually losing that fight until Hierarchy committed that foul. She wanted to get it back right away, and then she stepped it up. So my whole thing is I don't actually know what Ketlen Souza is going to show up, because if she shows up ready and angry to fight, she's going to put this one. She's going to put up a good fight. Rodriguez, on the other hand, she has the technical striking, the ability to move, good technical defense, high guard all the time. She's always keeping her feet moving. She's in your face, throwing the jab, ripping to the leg. The other thing too is she seems to with Souza, she seems to be a little bit more impactful. But with Rodriguez, when she sees the open and she can actually throw a little bit more zip on it, and that's how you're supposed to fight. Touch, touch, touch until you see the opening and then just let it go. She has solid Brazilian jiu-jitsu, does Rodriguez. Her striking is very technical, as we already stated. What I did notice that I saw was kind of the difference maker for me was the fact that if Souza tends to get the better of her in the fight, what Rodriguez did in a previous fight, when someone was getting the better of her, she timed the takedown perfectly. Actually, it was a double leg from the outside. She ducked under and was able to get her fight to the ground. Now, does it mean she's going to get that very easily with Souza? No, but I've also seen another fight where she got a takedown fairly easy as well once she wasn't getting the upper hand in the stand-up. So that lets me know not only does she know technically stand-up wise how to diffuse the power of another striker, she also can take it to another level if she needs to get out of the stand-up if she's getting overwhelmed. That in itself made me think this is an easy pick for me. I'm going Rodriguez.
Yeah, easy pick for me as well. I definitely like Piera Rodriguez, like you touched upon earlier. Powerful with the hands, nice combination with the hands, and she's got that wrestling and that grappling now to fall back on. And you've seen now in multiple fights inside the UFC that she's willing to mix in some grappling. We saw it in her last fight. We saw it in her previous fight that she can be very aggressive to look for the takedown, so much so that she likes to headbutt her opponents. That's by the by. Maybe, from 12 to 6 elbows. We'll add headbutts in the future. Pride rules. Let's see what goes on. But I digress. She likes knees in the clinch. Obviously, she's somebody that's going to be very, very aggressive to look for the finish once she does get fights to the ground. And I do like the power in her hands. I think that's definitely a missing thing, especially at 115. With a lot of the women, they do lack a little bit of power at times. Rodriguez carries a little bit about that power, And Souza, heavy boxing approach, doesn't throw a ton of kicks, can be a little bit low volume at times. We saw against Angela Hill that she did get taken down as well, and I think that that's going to be a good path to victory here for Rodriguez to mix in some takedowns. I think she also carries more power in the hands, and I don't really think that Souza is going to have a whole lot for Rodriguez on the feet. I don't think she's going to be able to back Rodriguez up. I think the aggression is going to be too much. She's going to mix in takedowns here, or she's going to beat her up on the feet with her power. So Piera Rodriguez all the way for me here, no matter where this fight takes place. And next up, we have on short notice Rafael Estevam taking on Felipe Bunes. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Estevam in this one. Bunes is he's going to try to outwork Estevam with his quickness, his technical striking, his grappling. I think Bunes is a very good fighter, but Estevam has the that something where it's like when he takes you down, there's intent for the takedown. Now that sounds stupid to say because Bunes will take you down, and when he throws punches, he's trying to hurt you too. But he's not trying to set anything up, whether it's grappling or striking. Whereas Estevam actually has intent, where he's like, "I'm gonna go from this side to this side, point A to point B," and he's got a reason why he wants to do it and lure you into a submission. Now, he's not the greatest technical striker ever, but he knows enough so that he could try to get this to the ground. I don't see, and this sounds stupid because Bunes is actually a very good fighter. I just think that I hate to use the term easy work because anything can happen, but I feel like this is going to be easy work for Estevam.
The only thing that really concerns me here for Estevam is the short notice. We've seen him fights previously in the past. The third round with the wrestle heavy style that he has can slow him down. Bunes, to be honest with you, I think that the one standout skill that he does have is the slick jiu-jitsu off of his back. We saw that in the Jose Johnson fight. Johnson looked to maybe mix in a little bit of grappling. Felipe Bunes was able to sweep with a nice arm bar. He was able to scramble to keep that arm bar. And I don't necessarily think the jiu-jitsu is going to be a factor here of Bunes. I think Estevam has proven to be a much tougher, grittier wrestler. I do think that he'll be able to get takedowns early and often. I think he'll fight off the submissions of Bunes. I do think on the feet that both guys kind of lack a little bit of striking. I think this will be a mostly grappling affair. I do think that Estevam, is more of a position over submission kind of guy. Bunes more of a submission guy over position and getting back to his feet. He'll happily sit there on bottom and throw up arm bars and triangles. And I think that'll play right into the hand of Estevam here. I think that he really looks to pass guard, get into half guard. He won't be a guy that looks to pass to mount. He likes to stay in the half guard, beat people up with elbows. And I think the half guard's become the new trend here in MMA. You see guys go to mount, guys get bucked off a little bit easier. I think that the half guard he's really established that as a position of dominance for him. He'll sit that half guard, beat you up. He won't necessarily look for a submission. He'll just ride out that top position and really just gain a lot of control time. I think he does that here. I think he wins the first 2 rounds at least with the wrestling and the grappling. I think Bunes is definitely going to be somebody that's going to, want to engage in the grappling. He's going to be willing to take the fight to the ground. I just think that it's one of those cases of wrestling over BJJ here. It's going to dominate the positions. Bunes is going to be happy to play jiu-jitsu off his back. And don't get me wrong, Bunes was originally going to face a guy like Andrey Lima who can do striking and grappling. They're not necessarily going to have to worry too much about Estevam's striking, but the grappling is going to be enough here, I think, with the top pressure, providing his cardio holds up. So give me Estevam as well to get it done here. And next up, we have Nick Klein taking on Andrey Pulyaev. Carlos, who are you going with? You going with the American or the Russian?
I'm gonna go with Klein. I'm going with the American. I do like the relaxed style of Pulyaev, but he can, or maybe he can, I don't know, but he doesn't really seem to hit another gear. Like if he's going 70%, he does that from start to finish. And even if the fight tends to speed up or his opponent tends to pick up the pace, he stays at the exact same pace. And with that kind of style, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to win more of your fights because you're going at a pretty good rate. But I don't think he's got that. Whereas Klein, he comes out of the gates like he's not an animal. He just doesn't run at you, but he's applying more of the pressure. And then he's trying to look for those takedowns. He's trying to beat you up on the feet. And, as they call him, blue collar, he comes and he's ready to go. He's ready to push the pace. He's ready to stay in your face. And he doesn't really want a decision. He's trying to finish you, whether it's on the ground or on the feet. And Klein is not defensively the most technical fighter. So Pulyaev throwing back counters, he's going to clip him. But Pulyaev doesn't seem to throw with enough zip to hurt you, even if he sees the opening and can exploit it. It seems like a lot of his fights tend to go decision. So I'm going to go with Klein. I think he can do I don't know if he's going to finish him, but I know he can do enough to get a decision. His work rate's going to be a little higher.
Yeah, 2 for Klein here for me. And this one's got a little unique twist on it because like you said, with the blue collar, man, this guy is a hard-working man. Let's put it that way, and that's why he's going to be the dog of the week, brother. For all you Hulkamaniacs out there, the dog of the week. Nick Klein is going to get it done for all you Americans, brother. And I'm going with it, man. I really like this guy's work ethic. I like the way that this guy puts forward his best effort in fights. And I think that that's exactly what he needs here against a guy like Pulyaev. We saw in Pulyev's last performance against a guy like Christian Leroy Duncan. He looked like he didn't even want to be in there. And Carlos hit the nail on the head when he said he just doesn't look like he has another gear. Long, rangy, guy for the division, but tends to just sit in the clinch. Doesn't really have the wrestling like most of the Russians do. And I just wasn't impressed with the guy. The guy has no real standout skills. He just looks like he doesn't want to be in there. I think people are looking at the 9-3 experience, the Russian, the height, the reach advantage, and they're just ultimately going to side with Pulyaev here. But I think the blue collar attitude here of Nick Klein is going to be all it takes for him to get it done. We saw in the Contender Series that, he was a big underdog. He came into that fight. He was able to come out very aggressive, take the back, use the wrestling, and ultimately find the rear naked choke. I think he comes in and does the same thing here. When you saw pretty much in that fight against Abdul Malik, he came out in that fight early. He had a nice spinning elbow that landed on Malik. Malik's a very fantastic in terms of talent, athleticism. He's head and shoulders above Klein, but Klein was able to, probably win that first round, holding him up against the fence, just making a gritty dog fight. And that's the whole point of Dog of the Week. He's the fucking dog in this fight. Pulyev's got no heart. He doesn't look like a guy that wants to be there. And you're giving me plus money on a guy in Nick Klein that's got a blue collar attitude that's going to do it here for the Dog of the Week. So what you gonna do, brother, when the dog of the week runs wild on you? That's all I gotta say about that one. Nick Klein getting it done. Dog of the week. Let's go, baby. Making it 2 in a row.
I can't even believe he's the underdog.
There you go, people.
That's incredible.
Exactly. That's what I said. It makes no sense, especially after that last performance with Pulyaev. But speaking of last performance, we have Rodolfo Vieira taking on Tresean Gore. Carlos, I got to rest my voice a little bit. Who you got in this one?
Well, I'm going to go with Rodolfo Vieira. And, I mean, with as little confidence as possible, I'm going with Rodolfo Vieira. There's nothing wrong with Vieira. His striking has improved. His grappling, his ground game is always going to be solid no matter what. High-level jiu-jitsu, but his wrestling lacks. And if you need to get this to the mat, you've got to push the pace, especially against someone that knows how to wrestle like Tresean Gore. The problem is that Gore doesn't want to wrestle, and Rodolfo doesn't know how to. And the issue being is, I think Gore can probably stuff a lot of these takedowns and probably land a bomb on the feet and get Vieira out of there. As you were explaining earlier, before we got on, I can actually see Gore doing something stupid like jumping for a guillotine. So now I'm like, okay, I feel Vieira could win that round. Once he gets him down, he can control him. And I feel in the first round, Vieira is actually going to push the pace standing, because at least that's what he did in his last fight. And he had success with that. It'll be up to Gore in the third round when Vieira's tired, and Gore's going to be a little tired as well, as they're both labored. Can he land that big shot? And I'm thinking maybe Vieira can pull this out. I don't know. So there's little to no confidence in either one of these guys saying this guy's going to win. But to pick, I'm going to take Vieira. Not happy about it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Carlos and I talked about this one before we went live today, and I got to say, I'm not high on Rodolfo Vieira's MMA skill set. He lacks the ability to get fights to the ground, which is where he shines. Obviously known as the black belt hunter, which obviously tells you his pedigree inside of the jiu-jitsu world. But when it comes to his pedigree inside of the MMA cage, the guy just struggles, man. I mean, I wrote here in my notes, which I forgot I even wrote here, is bad cardio for Vieira. Very grappling heavy style. I would question whether Martin Boudet's cardio is probably a little bit better than his, judging by last Saturday. I think it's kind of crazy, when you look at the guy. He's a very physically muscular build, but his cardio falls off a cliff, especially with the heavy grappling skill set, but he lacks the wrestling to get fights to the ground. Now, I said to Carlos, I do think that Tresean Gore is dumb enough to jump guillotine just to see, just to try to say, hey, I submitted, the black belt hunter, whatever. I think out of the two, I think Tresean Gore's the more athletic guy, the more cleaner striker. And you saw in his last fight against, I think it was not Tricoli or whatever the guy's name, the Brazilian guy that he fought last. He had a couple of nice shots in there. He's definitely a better striker than a guy like Vieira. So I do think that he could definitely, win this fight with the hands if he's able to keep the fight upright. We saw against Andrey Petrovsky that Vieira really struggled with, getting the fight to the ground and then keeping the fight when it was on the feet. He struggled with the striking. I think Gore could definitely capitalize on that. And if this comes down to, striker versus striker, I'd like Gore to win this one for sure. But I'm just going to say that I think Vieira somehow is going to pull this one out. Maybe second round submission at some point. Either Gore's going to make a mistake or Vieira's going to be able to get some sort of muscle takedown. Once he gets that takedown, he's going to be able to capitalize here with a submission here on Gore. But again, I'm right there with Carlos, man. I don't love it, don't like it. Wouldn't be surprised if Gore pulls off the upset, but I'm going to go with Vieira to get it done. And next up, we have Rinya Nakamura taking on Nathan Fletcher. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
Okay, what I'm going to say is, as long as Nakamura does not fight the way that he did last out, he should win this. You know what I mean? Like, you go out there, you fight a striker who's pretty dangerous, you get your bell rung a couple times, and you still stay on your feet, and you never looked for one takedown. If you do that against Fletcher, he's going to hurt you on the feet. And, Fletcher's last out against Lockran, like, yeah, he didn't get he did do a lot more of the damage. So it would be in Nakamura's best interest to get this to the ground and at least control him down there. Now, Fletcher's supposed to have some good jiu-jitsu off his back as well. But the issue being is that Nakamura is probably just going to smother it with a lot of position in the wrestling department. Highly regarded wrestler. So I think he's had time too. Like, he decided to stand up against a good striker to see how he would fare. In his mind, he didn't get knocked out. So I don't know how that looks. Does he think he did good because he didn't get knocked out? Or does he think he did bad? Because I could tell you he did very poorly in that fight. And yeah, I'm gonna take Nakamura because I believe he's gonna go for the takedowns, some ground and pound, and some ground control. He's a very big 135er. He should be able to control Fletcher with no problem. And yeah, that's what I'm taking. He should get the dominant victory there.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes the same damn thing. If you are familiar with the Ground and Pound podcast, I believe one of our first videos I did an excessive rant about Rinya Nakamura blowing up one of my parlays for the Slam of the Week, purely because of the fact that he just decided in that fight to not wrestle, even though in the 2020 Olympic Games he was supposed to wrestle for Team Japan, represent his whole entire nation, but didn't get to compete due to the pandemic. That's how high level this guy's wrestling is on a global stage. He gets picked out at his weight class in order to represent his country, at a country that's pretty decent when it comes to the wrestling game. And he's a very, very good athlete, very explosive, nice blast doubles, good singles, great top control, can flow from position to position. Once he gets you down, man, he's keeping you down. But like I said, and like Carlos said, if he decides to fucking use it, if the guy doesn't use it, I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan Fletcher wins this fight. He's a huge underdog. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls it out, if this is just a back and forth striking affair. But I'm with you, Carlos. I think he's going to use it this time. I think that someone on his team is going to get in his ear or, just slap him around and just say, hey, let's get back to what we do. His striking is just not his skill set. And even if he has worked on it, why not just stick to what you've done your whole entire life and, that you've obviously credentialed in. And when you talk about Nathan Fletcher, obviously a training partner of Paddy the Baddy Pimlet, trains over at Next Generation MMA. Great back takes, obviously, on The Ultimate Fighter. I believe he got to, I want to say the final or somewhere along there. I forget exactly where. Nice low kicks, has nice kicks from the outside. Lacks a little bit of head movement, which I do think could be a problem if Nakamura does throw the overhand right, which we've seen him do in the past. And in the fight against Lochran, he was able to get takedowns against him, but also Lochran was able to take him down as well. He did seem to struggle with the takedowns of Lochran as well. And he has power in his hands when he lets his hands go. We saw him wobble Lochran late in that fight when he does bite down on his mouthpiece. But to me, if Lochran's getting takedowns against you, then Rinya Nakamura is definitely going to be able to get takedowns against you. So providing he uses the wrestling, I think Nakamura gets this one done. And next up, we have Danny Silva taking on Kevin Vallejos. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm going to have to go with this guy. I like him as Kevin Vallejos. And Silva's tough. He's skilled. He's long. He's got a good reach, good snapping punches, throws in combination, but primarily just boxing. And if you're going to do that against Vallejos, you're probably going to end up losing. He has very good slip techniques as he's coming in with his head movement. Once he's inside, he unleashes a lot of hooks, uppercuts. Um, he can handle the strikes as we've seen against what's his name, John Silva, and Silva can crack and was hurting him late in the fight. But throughout rounds 1 and 2, he was able to stand in the pocket with him. So that gives me some big ups. He's a tough kid. Very solid base, very hard to move him with just strikes. He takes punches well, flips inside. If he can't get inside, or even if he can, what he likes to do is rip the calf, and he has that little short calf kick, and he gets a good reaction. He gets the reaction that he needs out of guys where he starts to beat up that leg. He was actually doing that to Silva as well. And I don't see how Vallejos is not going to win this fight. Silva, he's not a bad fighter. He's pretty good. He's got a lot of speed, a lot of quickness, a lot of length, but this is not a knock on Kulibao, but if you're getting stung by Joshua Kulibao, you're going to get hit by Vallejos, and he's going to put you out. So I'm going with Kevin in this one.
Yeah, I like this kid, Kevin, too. I'm right there with you. His lone loss to Gene Silva on Contender Series has aged very, very well. Danny Silva, obviously a training protege of Cub Swanson, so obviously got a very experienced UFC veteran in his corner, and I don't think it fucking matters here. I think this is a great stylistic matchup here for a guy like Kevin Vallejos. I think the UFC knew exactly what they were doing when they put this fight together. Both guys very game to stand and trade, not necessarily going to look to grapple too much. Danny Silva has mixed in takedowns in his previous fights, but he's mostly a boxer, and I think that plays right into the hands of a guy like Kevin Vallejos. And Vallejos, fantastic boxing, as Carlos mentioned, still only 23 years old, so still can make a ton of improvements. But his win, coming off his win against Choi, he showed that he's not a guy that's going to pump out the jab and disguise the right hand with the jab. He kind of gets his reads. He's I don't want to say Ilia Topuria because I think that might be a little bit disrespectful to Ilia, but the way that he kind of gets his reads and kind of moves side to side, and he's kind of looking, he's just seeing, okay, like this is what this opponent's going to do. He's going to time a counter. He's going to throw a nice 1-2, maybe like a hook, and then to rip to the body. I really like when he rips to the body as well. And the thing with Silva, really, to me, is that he's more of a volume puncher than a power puncher. I think Kevin Vallejos has much more power in the hands. I think that Silva can get up on the striking numbers early, and ultimately it's just going to take that one shot from Vallejos to really put the chin of Silva to the test, and I think that he ultimately finds the knockout here. If he doesn't, Vallejos has also got submission victories. We've seen him mixing grappling in the past. And to me, this is just a volume versus power game. But the thing with Kevin Vallejos is he sets up his power very well. I think he has faster hands as well. And I like the way that he's been fighting. I think he's going to be somebody special. I think this is a good matchup. The UFC knows what they're doing here. They're giving him a game opponent. I think he takes advantage of that and gets the knockout. And next up, we have Zaleski dos Santos taking on Neil Magny. Gatekeeper. Is Neil Magny going to get it done, Carlos? Let us know.
This one was a little difficult because Zaleski dos Santos is he's good. He's talented. He's sharp, and Neil Magny is kind of a pitter patter. He's going to go high volume. But him, just like who are we just discussing just now? Who's like high volume, only has 1 year. Pulyaev, I think, and Magny doesn't really change speeds unless he knows you're compromised. You got to be hurt or gassed in some way. And yet again, that's what he's going to try to play to, is that he needs you to get tired in order for him to pick up the pace. He's going to have the reach and height advantage in this one as well. And the one thing that makes me go for Magny in this one more than Zaleski dos Santos is the fact that he throws more volume, and Zaleski will throw a couple strikes, probably go for a takedown or two. If he doesn't get it, he'll back off, whereas Magny will probably follow him out. And that's that rest period that he needs. So it's not that Magny doesn't respect the power coming at him from Zaleski dos Santos. It's the fact that that's when he wants to push the pace on you, is when he knows you're going to take a step back. So I'm going to take Magny in this one. Not too confident about it, but I feel better picking Magny because I think that this plays to him pretty well. I think he's gonna those little seconds where Zaleski dos Santos is going for a break. I think that's when Magny's gonna press, and I think he's gonna get him to fatigue a little bit and probably get the decision.
Yeah, for those of you that watch MMA regularly, you've been a UFC fan for a long time. It's pretty much obvious what Neil Magny wants to do in fights. He wants to get you up against the fence, use his sort of tall frame, long reach, and really just dig those underhooks and beat you up in the clinch and hold you up against the fence. There's no secret. He even does a little bit of that like Ketlen Shikagian with the jab, where he constantly makes the little noises, because he knows he's not got the power, but he's throwing the volume out there. He's giving the judges something to think about when he's doing that. All that bullshit that some fighters do. But I don't really care what Magny does in this fight because I'm taking Zaleski dos Santos here with that capoeira style. I like him here. Both guys obviously aging fighters, but I just trust the power a little bit more on the side of Santos. He'll mix in grappling. We saw him do that against Randy Brown. He obviously coming off that knockout loss to Chidi Unchikawani. He was obviously hit with that knee coming in. But I just don't think that Magny carries that same power that Chidi has. I don't think that he has the striking of Chidi. I don't think that he's as dangerous. And I think that kind of Dos Santos can kind of walk Magny down a little bit here. I think that this is going to come down to a guy that knows that, once he takes, Magny's best shots, that he can kind of walk through them a little bit. I think if he wants to mix in wrestling, that he can. I think he should stay out of the clinch here and ultimately just get on the inside, kind of bob and weave, throw big overhands, throw hooks, and really just kind of Carlos, I know it's going to be kind of funny to say, seeing as he got knocked out of the weekend, but almost Carlos Leal Magny in this fight. Walk him down with disdain, kind of don't respect the power that's coming back, and really just try to, work the body as well. Maybe light up the calf a little bit and throw some overhands. I think he finds the chin of Magny. I like to see him get the finish. If this fight hits the mat, we know that Zaleski dos Santos is good on top. He'll beat you up on top. If Magny can't get this fight to the ground, or if he can't hold you up against the fence, I think it's going to be a long night. Give me Dos Santos here to get it done. And next up, we have Karol Rojas taking on Norma Cornolle. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I got Karol Rosa in this one. Rosa, she fights very safe, rips the lead leg of her opponent early. Very technical strike, and defensively very technical as well. Brings her arms up, high guard, checks kicks, very safe. Doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. Doesn't take a risk, even though that may be the opening that she needs. She won't do it. Now, that's helped her or it's hurt her. I don't know. I'm not sure, but with that reasoning, I'm going with her because I think that Cornolle is going to push the pace, and then pushing the pace, she's just going to come forward. And coming forward is going to give Rosa that ability to know when she's going to take that step, and she's going to just line that leg up, and she's going to rip it. And once she starts doing that, Cornolle, yes, she can hit. She hits pretty hard too, but I think that that's going to start taking her out of her rhythm. Now, Cornolle will probably try to shoot for a takedown. She's done that before. But Rosa's she's got very strong hips, and if you get her against the cage, her balance isn't the best because she needs to have some room to go backwards. But that's the best shot that Cornolle has, is get her up against the cage and try to get her off balance. In open space, she's not going to get the takedown. And when you get hurt, it's going to be an open space, and that's when she's going to go for it, most likely. It can happen anywhere. And I just feel that Rosa's going to land the harder shots. I think that after she tears that leg apart, Cornolle's just going to be ripe for the pick in there, and she's going to end up just, it's just going to be a training session for her at that point.
Yeah, give me 2 for Rosa here. I'm right there. Carla. What's her name? Is it Rojas? Rosa? Is it Rosa? Am I pronouncing that right? Rosa? Yeah, Rosa.
I don't know if you're supposed to say Karol Rosa or Rosa, but
I'm thinking about the Raul Rojas Jr. I'm pretty sure it's said or spelt very similar. That's what's throwing me off here. But yeah, we're gonna go with Karol. Okay, Karol. Yeah. She's gonna get it done. Not to be confused with the Karens of the world. All right. Yeah, very, sort of boxing heavy approach, very flat footed. Throw up a ton of volume. She likes to blast the lead kick, like Carlos said. That calf kick is always there. She's constantly throwing it. She likes knees in the clinch. And to me, the volume is going to be the factor here. I think this is a big step up in competition for Nora Cornolle. Obviously, the experience, a big factor here on the side of Karol Rosa. I can't pronounce that last name. Yeah, I think that wherever this fight goes, if she does decide to mix in grappling, I think that she's going to be the better grappler overall. I think if Cornolle, which we saw in her last fight, she does want to mix in takedowns, I think that that's going to be something she might look to do here. But I just think that Carol's going to be able to keep this fight on the feet. I don't think that the Muay Thai style striker in Nora Cornolle is going to have much success here. She tends to load up on a lot of her shots, whereas Karol tends to throw a little bit more volume out there, fights behind the jab, throws in combinations. I think that that's pretty much going to be what's going to get her, the victory here. I think that the volume on the side of Karol is going to be basically the deciding factor. I don't think that Cornolle's got the power to put Karol's lights out. We saw in the Arena Aldana fight that she's very, very tough. She can take a licking and keep going. And I just think, to be honest, that, like I said earlier, that this is a big step up in competition for Cornolle. And even though she did show that she's made improvements in the grappling against Haley Cowan in her last fight, this isn't Haley Cowan. Karol Rosa has been very impressive inside the UFC. And I just think that she's going to be able to get it done with the striking and just keeping this one on the feet. So 2 for the Brazilian here. And next up, we have Elves Brener taking on Esteban Ribovics. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Brother, this one's a tough one because Elves Brener, like, he likes to put the pressure on, and he can crack pretty good too. So I'm going with Ribovics. He's a good fighter. He could be even better if he learns to mix up his attacks a little bit more. He does have good takedowns. He does have good kicks. He barely throws kicks, barely goes for takedowns, but he's always ready to box. The boxing heavy style is great. I just want people to add a little bit more to it. It'll make the night easier for themselves, possibly. Anyway, he has good wrestling, good submission defense. He's very gutsy in his striking, whereas even if he's getting hurt, he's going to stay in the pocket, which to me, it'd be great. He uses a little bit more of a high guard instead of using his chin to absorb the shots, but it's been working for him, so we'll leave it. At 29, I think he can still do that. Use his chin as defense for how long? I don't know. But Brener can crack, so he's got to be worried about that as well as for counters. And, that can win you the round if he gets dropped while he's winning and he comes in a little wild and gets clipped. You don't want to lose a round like that. I also think if it gets to the ground, Brener might be a little bit more dangerous. I know Ribovics seems to be very polished on the ground as well, but I also know that Brener, I'm assuming he's shooter box, trains with what's his name, Charles Oliveira, and he's going to be dangerous down there as well. So it'd be great for Ribovics to keep this on the feet. But I think that benefits him a little bit more because Brenner's a little looping, a little wide when he throws. So I'm going to go with Ribovics.
Yeah, Elvis Brener, known as the comeback kid, pretty much. The obviously that fight that he had against Gore, where he was getting beaten up for 2 straight rounds and was able to come back. It's been kind of his trademark, where in the 3rd round he really puts up a good fight, gives people hell in the 3rd round, and sometimes that's all he needs to get to that 3rd round. And when his opponent's tired, he seems to summon up that rocky kind of fighting spirit and ends up getting the finish. And like Carlos said, very aggressive shooter box style, obviously very good everywhere. Great submissions, decent wrestling, very aggressive on the feet. And coming off back-to-back losses now against Joel Alvarez and Mutubek Orobai. I mean, both guys very, very good, very high-level guys. So no shame in that. And we saw in the past, that he can be one of these guys that gets taken down and beaten up and, ends up coming back and fight. So if we see Ribovics, get up early on the scorecards, put up a good fight, get it high volume, beating the Brener up, cuts him, just watch out to see if Brener is still live. There's still a chance here that he's going to be able to find the finish late in fights, as he's always aggressive. He's always looking for the finish. And when you talk about Esteban Ribovics, obviously him coming off that performance in the Sphere where he was able to get the win, he then came in and fought in the Apex against Nasrat Haqparast, and he had a very close back and forth fight, but ultimately ended up losing that split decision there. He can put up volume. He doesn't necessarily look for the takedowns. He will blast kicks. He loves to pressure on the feet as well, and he will look to rip to the body on the inside as well, which I do think is a good weapon for him to use, especially against a guy like Brener, who just seems just to have a great chin, and a guy that just doesn't have a whole lot of quit. If he can find the liver, maybe go to the body, that might be a good way for him to be able to get the finish here on Brener and not see that third round. He will blast calf kicks as well, and his chin was tested against Nasrat Haqparast, and it seemed to hold up pretty well. So I am going to lean to Ribovics here. I do think that Brener is live for a third round finish if Ribovics does tend to slow down in fights. He's proven to be pretty much a dog. So out of Brazil versus Argentina, the rivalry, we're going to go with the Argentinian here and Ribovics to get it done. I'm going to say probably by decision. And next up, we have the co-main event of the evening. And if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button as we break down Chris Duncan taking on Mateusz Rebecki. Carlos, who you got in this one?
And I love this Rebecki guy. He, he's like, we talked about it before. He's like that little guy in school with retard strength. You ask him to eat a worm, he's going to do it. He just has that face. He just looks like he's ready to take chances, ready to, leap off a gorge into the water. So that's great. That's awesome. He's got that. But what he has is a ton of heart, and he's very strong. And it doesn't matter how wide his mouth is open, he's sucking wind the entire round from round 1 to round 3. He's still throwing hard shots. And that's what made this very difficult, especially that fight against Miktabek Orbai. It looked like he was finished, and then he comes back and hurts Orbai, and it looks like Orbai is going to be finished, and he ends up pulling out the victory. So it's really difficult for me to go with this, but I'm going to go with Duncan on this one. And the reason I'm going with him is I love the changes that he's made since he's gone to American Top Team to train. What he does is he actually likes to take the fight, mixing his skills, of course, take the fight where he has the best chance of winning. So if he hits you and you're rocked, he doesn't care to follow up with extra strikes. He's going to jump into a submission because he knows that you're probably on Queer Street and you don't know where you're at, and he's going to try to hit you with something different. So he's going to go for a submission. If he gets a takedown, he's going to land some hammer fist. You extend your arm, he's going to go for an armbar. He's been mixing up his styles a little bit better instead of just trying to stand up and bang with guys. And I think if he can stay out of that back and forth with Rebecki, even though Rebecki has very good jiu-jitsu, I think he can squeak this out. I like the changes that he's made. Has it been against top guys? No, this is going to be the first top guy that he's fighting, so we're going to see how those changes work, but I think he can get this done.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth when it came to the toughness of Mateusz Rebecki. And obviously what you said about Chris Duncan is held true with his move over to American Top Team. He's obviously got back-to-back wins, both by guillotine. He's looked impressive, and I'm actually going to disagree. I'm going to go with Rebecki here. I think that Chris Duncan is just going to be a little bit too slow, a little bit too flat-footed for Rebecki. I think Rebecki comes out early and very aggressive. I think that's going to be a big factor here in this fight. I don't necessarily trust Chris Duncan's chin at times. He has been chinned in the past. And even though I do think that he's looked good since going over to American Top Team, I think this is going to be a little bit too much for him. The wrestling has always been the kind of fallback for him. And Mateusz Rebecki's got good wrestling. The guy has competed at a high level, I believe, in grappling tournaments. And I like him here. The toughness has been on display in his previous fight, obviously against Miktabek Orbai. Hopefully his chin is not fading him since all of the damage he did take in that fight. But I just trust him a little bit more in terms of the overall skill set. I think he has the better wrestling. wrestling. I think when it comes to the striking, I think that he probably has a little bit more power. I do think that Duncan obviously is going to be a little bit more technical on the feet. He's obviously going to have the height and reach advantage in this matchup. But I think that Rebecki's going to be able to find a way to get this one done, whether it be with the wrestling or with the striking, with the overhands. And to me, Chris Duncan, like I said, not taking anything away from him, I just think this is kind of like a run where it kind of gets to that point now where it's like, okay, enough's enough. You've been beating guys you should beat. You've got a couple of nice wins since moving over to your new gym, but ultimately Rebecki, I think here at 20-2 is going to get this one done. I'm going to say probably with the grappling, he's going to mix in some wrestling, maybe find a submission late. And next up we have. Well, you thought I was going to go with the Scotsman for the UK, but I had to mix it up.
No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. I wanted to go with Rebecki too, but I was like, I like what Duncan has done. It wasn't against opposition like Rebecki, and I go, but this is his step up. Can he do it? So I'm looking forward to that fight. Is what I'm saying. I like what I've seen from Duncan, and obviously everybody loves what they've seen from Rebecki. So
yeah,
I just want to see like, can he match him? Can he do that? And I don't really think he can, but there's that little part of me that's like, I think Duncan can. I think he can. I think he can. So who knows?
Yeah, and speaking of stepping up, we have Park Hyung-sung stepping in here for Albazi, obviously on short notice here in the main event of the evening against Tatsuro Taira. And if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button, as Carlos is going to let you know who he has in the main event this week.
I'm taking Tatsuro Taira. It's a short notice change, and Park is very skilled. He's well-rounded as well. Jeez, and I just think he's going to be a little too overmatched. Taira on the ground, I think, like we just talked about before, I think that he finds a way to get in the best position in a scramble, and I felt that he was going to do that against Albazi, and Albazi's a good wrestler. I just feel he's going to do that against Park. Now, I think Park on the feet is probably going to pose a little bit more of an issue, but I think Taira, he's very big for the weight class too, and if he hits him, I think he's got a little extra sting than Park does, so it'll have to be something he has to watch out for. But ultimately, I think Taira's going to be able to get him to the ground, and on short notice, yes, he's probably been in the gym training, but he probably hasn't been conditioning for a fight at all. So I think Taira's gonna push the pace and probably get this done.
Yeah, 2 for Taira here for me. I've been impressed with Park Hyung-sung, to be honest with you, in his previous fights. He's looked pretty good. He's got power on the feet, very nice boxing. And when he hurts you as well, like you mentioned about Chris Duncan, that, when he hurts people, he will go in for submissions. He did that in his last fight against Carlos Hernandez. We saw him land a very nice shot. Carlos Hernandez looked like he was on Queer Street, as Carlos would say. And he was able to get the submission victory. He took the back very quickly, took the fight to the ground and choked him out. And I do think that he looks impressive. I think in terms of the striking, I do think that Park has, some pop in his hands that could give Taira a little bit of trouble, especially early. But like Carlos said, the short notice to me is a big factor. I think Taira, big for the division. Taira is fantastic in the scrambles, good jiu-jitsu. He's very, very good at taking the back. And I mentioned to Carlos earlier as well, I think one of the things that also is going to play a big factor here is that Taira has gone 5 rounds against Brandon Royval. He knows he can go 5 rounds hard. And Park here, he's never been 5 rounds. Taira has the experience in 5 rounds now. And on top of that, you factor in the short notice here that what's Park going to look like after a couple of rounds here if he can't get Taira out of there early. And I don't think that's going to be a recipe for any sort of success here for Park. I think that Taira is going to be able to get body locks here on and maybe look for some submissions. I think his grappling is very, very high level. And I think that he has decent wrestling in order to get fights to the ground. I think Park has shown that he can grapple. I think Taira is going to be too much of a big step up here. Too much, too soon. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see him versus Albazi. But one thing that you guys will be able to see is some of the videos that are coming on the channel. I know you like that transition there, Carlos. We have the full card breakdown for the PFL World Tournament 8. That video will be live on the channel shortly. Keep an eye out for that full card breakdown in detail for the whole of the PFL final. And obviously, the dog of the week. We cashed last week with Rinya Derrida, looking to make it 2 in a row. Full highlight reel tape there. And obviously, you have a full breakdown of why I like Nick Klein here to get it done for the Dog of the Week. A little tribute there to Hulk Hogan in that video, just for you guys if you want to check that one out. Before we wrap things up, Carlos, you want to say anything to the people?
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the content. We enjoy putting it out there, so please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, we'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, hit that like and subscribe button for your boys, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.